morning to you all. Mr. Prashant Gupta, Microsoft, Ms. Akrati from Legal Era, and of course Professor Rao from National Law School of Bangalore, delegates from different organizations, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all once again. And of course, I am very, very thankful to Legal Era for inviting me and giving me opportunity in this important and prestigious forum. And the theme of today's, of course, they are doing first time this event on this theme, but the theme is very, very relevant, seeing that today's time, and of course, I am being a technocrat and talking in the legal fraternity, it's a more relevant because all these issues, as Professor pointed out, definitely technology cannot penetrate, does not survive, and cannot go beyond a particular time until unless it is backed by the legal fraternity. So that's why I won't be touching not touching the technical points. I will be talking on the basic issues, policy issues, and of course how legal fraternity can support it. Cloud computing services, definitely it's a great services to the country as well as in worldwide. But definitely the most of the concerns right now being raised in the cloud services, of course, which would be raised by Mr. Gupta from Microsoft, concerns regarding legal concerns, regarding geographical concerns. So I would be touching some of the points in my presentations, but the theme of today's is of course IT, cloud computing and shared technologies. Theme is tomorrow's and IT challenges. So definitely information technology, it's a buzzword nowadays, and of course the government of India is adopting this e-governance services across the country up to the rural area. And of course for all these technological innovations, technological adoptions, this penetration of internet, penetration of broadband is must. Basically, therefore yesterday only I had been to Port Blair. Of course, we talk of internet, broadband, 2 Mbps, 4 Mbps, but I had felt it in Port Blair. We did not. I was not having the this broadband services, proper broadband services. Sending email was taking 2 hours time. So I can feel it. Ki all these services will work only when we do have proper connectivity, connecting the unconnected ones. Though I belong to the Department of Telecommunications, primary responsibility is of the Department of Telecommunications, but I have felt it. The Chief Secretary, Principal Secretary were of the concern ki how we can adopt the IPv6 until and unless we have the basic connectivity, we get the basic connectivity issue resolved. So now I must share you the plans of the Government of India.
The other few things are really about diversity, right? The data, as data comes through the planet, you have all sorts of diverse data coming in, right? The scale is massive. We are talking about petabytes today. And it's non-stationary. That's a very, very important piece because the traditional IT was very much saying, look, here's the data that has come from the customers or the consumers, and we need to process it. Today, it has become very non-stationary. Right? It's like changing all the time. How do you manage and how do you create these new IT systems which are adaptable to all those things is where the challenge is and where is the opportunity for a lot of startups, entrepreneurs and so forth as well. So if you look at tomorrow's IT, it really requires traditional tools as well as new tools. And if you look at the traditional tools like IBM and Oracle, they've been like really thinking through the relational database management and so forth. And then Amazon and Google, where they're starting to think about, like how do you manage petable data services and so forth. And from our perspective, we're basically looking at both ends, right? So we have like a database servers, SQL database, Office, Windows, Azure, cloud computing platform, and then Bing Search and so forth. And we believe that the combination of the traditional as well as new tools is the way to go. So let me just quickly, in 5 minutes, take you through this important thing, right? How do you think through this big data cycle, right? And it's really 3 stage. The first is manage. So if you look at from the managing any data or any size anywhere, right? You're talking about not just the relational data now, right? Which was very much SQL Server database or parallel data warehouse. You're starting to talk about Hadoop, Hadoop on Azure, Hadoop on Windows, which is really non-relational database. It's non-structured. You can manage it, based on your whatever clusters capacity you need and so forth. And so the data will be moving across the board, right? Across the structured data, across the non-structured data, and so forth. So you have to manage all those things through ETLs, connectors, whatever, right? Things like that. So you have to think big in terms of how the data and size are changing, right? It's an example of Yahoo, basically they have like this 6 petabyte Hadoop cluster, feeding into a cube. It's a data warehouse, and then how they are actually using BI tools to process that cube and getting the insights. So imagine the scale with which these things are being operated. Petabytes, it's a lot of data, by the way. Second, if you look at from managed to enriched perspective, you have to think through what kind of data and all sorts of data you are handling, right? So you really have to think through the defining aspect of it, the discovery aspect of it, as well as the combination. How do you combine all this data and so forth? So you're really looking at the credibility of the data. That's very, very important as you think through the business. The data analytics around it for the enrichment and so forth. So this is the way we think, right? From the value creation perspective, you really have to think through the data from different perspectives, which is the personal data, organizational data, community data, and the world data. And how do you actually go through each of these, go through in depth in each of these, how do you correlate each of these? That's where you create value. The last piece of it is this whole insight, right? Where basically, once you have all this management and enrichment done on the data, then you really have to create insights out of it. So you have to really run the right tools, bring it on Excel or PowerPoint, Power Pivots, whatever, right? But it has to be very visually appealing as well, right? At the end of it, the insights need to say, okay, here are the charts going on, here is what's going on, and so forth. So you have to think through, how these data scientists or BI professionals or even like simple BI analysts thinking through this data and the visualization of these insights and so forth. Because data scientists always think through from the petabytes perspective big, right? But business analyst wants to see everything in sort of megabytes or even less, right? Gigabytes, let's say. But say, look, I just need to handle this properly, right? And so all these different aspects in the spectrum has to be kept in mind in tomorrow's IT, and that's very, very important. So this is the basic picture of tomorrow's IT, right? If you really think through this, right? From the data management perspective, you're talking about the relational, non-relational, streaming aspect of it. As you go up to the scale, the next level, it's the data enrichment side of it, which is really, how do you actually discover, how do you combine, how do you, really, really create benefit, right? And then the last piece of it is really the insight piece of it, where you are using different sorts of visualization tools and so forth. And so this is how we see the picture, right? So we have product offerings in each of these things, right? From managed perspective, we have SQL servers, Microsoft HD Insight service on Azure, Windows Azure service. Then we have enrichment side, we have data marketplace today. It's a very, very interesting place where Windows Azure now has a lot of data, pre-packaged data that you can download from weather perspective, from past census perspective and so forth, because we have already done that enrichment for you. And then the third piece is the insight piece, where you have Microsoft Office as well as the SharePoint and Power Pivots and so forth. So that's basically what I wanted to cover. So thanks.